I'd like to say a pleasant good afternoon to all here, especially to the media, to one of the regular press conferences that we'll be having over the next several years. Ladies and gentlemen, ministers of government, members of the House of Assembly, members of the civil service present, members of the press, good afternoon. Today I want to talk to you about initiatives that were raised in my budget address, which are vital to our economy and all residents of the territory. First, my initial approach to lowering the cost of goods for sale in the territory. Second, declaration of Gun Creek as a port of entry into the British Virgin Islands. And third, initiation of a 6-day-per-week ferry service between Road Harbor and Tortola and Setting Point on Anegada. With effect from the 1st of February 2012, that is today, the policy of government with respect to goods being imported into the territory is that duty will be levied on freight on port costs and not on cost, insurance, and freight, as is the current practice. I spoke about this in my budget address, and my press conference this afternoon illustrates that with my government, a promise made is a promise kept. Ladies and gentlemen, the fundamentals of my government's approach to the economic recovery is that we minimize direct contributions into the economy by central government, via transfers and direct participation, and instead provide an enabling environment so that the private sector, as a more efficient and responsive vehicle, can be the main driver for economic growth and development. I indicated that we would lower the cost of goods imported into the territory by charging import duties on freight and port costs, as opposed to what is currently done on cost, insurance, and freight. People in this territory are subjected to very high prices, especially for food and household items, that cause them to experience hardships in meeting the needs of their families. These hardships have negatively impacted the quality of life that we are accustomed to in this territory, as more and more of our residents have difficulties with basic survival. I've heard the cries, ladies and gentlemen. I heard the complaints that prices fluctuate wildly on the supermarket shelves, and that we are spending more of our paychecks for food, clothing, and shelter. I know that is why an increasing number of you shop overseas and spend in excess of an estimated $40 million per year doing so. We need that money to stay in our economy, and we believe that if we were to become competitive in prices, a large portion of that money would indeed remain in the British Virgin Islands. If we keep that money in our economy, then our local businesses hire more, turn over their products faster, and yes, also pay more taxes. A win-win situation for everyone. Our economy cannot realize its true potential, ladies and gentlemen, if we continue to expatriate funds out of the territory. So here is what we expect with this change in duty assessment. We expect that the savings to the local businesses will allow them to provide incentives and lower prices to the consumer. The $3.7 million in revenue foregone by the government of the Virgin Islands, we consider as an incentive to local businesses that should accrue benefits very soon. In an effort to facilitate the success of this initiative, there will be joint supervision by the Ministry of Finance and the National Business Bureau, and the combined effects of its existence reviewed during and at the end of the next 24 months. In this regard, in regard to this initiative about duties, etc., while I understand that Mr. Wade Smith, Comptroller of Customs, has been requested to take a substantial portion of his leave in accordance with government's policy, he is absent at this time, and most in light of the new initiatives I've just announced, is not convenient. I have therefore asked that his requirement for leave be deferred to a more suitable and mutually agreed time frame to allow the work of the department to proceed unimpeded. I'll also take this opportunity to also announce that on 1st March 2012, Gun Creek in Virgin Gorda will be designated as a port of entry into the British Virgin Islands. The North Song, of which Gun Creek is a part, is hailed as one of the best anchorages in the Caribbean, and is a playground and watering hole for valued visitors throughout the year. We believe that the increased convenience that this new port of entry will provide for visitors will set us well on the way to improving the experience they encounter when they come to and consequently spend time in the BVI. This is a bold initiative that will require investment up front, but which we are confident we can recoup in user fees, cruising permits, and indirect taxes as a result of increased traffic in the Sound. More importantly, however, declaring Gun Creek as a port of entry will act as a catalyst for the development of a very important segment of our tourism industry, as well as facilitate the development of the industry in general and commerce in the British Virgin Islands. Finally, I'd like to announce the provision of a 6-day-per-week ferry service between Road Town, Tortola and Setting Point and Anegada as of Tuesday of next week, that is the 7th of February. The people of Anegada must be as connected to their capital as are the people of the other major islands in the British Virgin Islands. They deserve to be, and in any case, an increased service will have the intended benefit of stimulating the economy of Anegada by providing greater continuous and affordable access to that island from the main island of Tortola, both for residents and for tourists alike. At the moment, the service is being provided 3 days per week. And my intention through this initiative is to provide an additional 3 days for the duration of the tourist season initially. My government will subsidize offsets on a predetermined formula to make the service viable in the short run. But we are hopeful that an increase in the use of the service by BVI residents will significantly reduce the level of the subsidy. Ladies and gentlemen, bear in mind that these 3 initiatives will require noticeable fiscal outlays by the government of the Virgin Islands. We will monitor them very closely over the next 24 months in order to measure the effect that they are having on the economy. In order to measure that the effect that they are having on the economy is aligned with our intent, and as a result, adjustments made. As stated previously, we hold the position that it is the regular citizen and the private sector that ultimately provides for a more efficient, developed and growing economy, and consequently, we are using these 3 initiatives as initial steps by which we can create an enabling environment where we continue to develop others. I ask you to continue to be patient with us as we seek to forge ahead in a quest to improve the living standard experienced by the people of this unique and special place we call home. Thank you for listening, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Good afternoon, Gordon French, BVI Platinum News. Taking note of the measures that have been announced a few minutes ago, what measures is the government going to take to ensure that the supermarkets and those companies that are benefiting would pass on the savings? I know you mentioned monitoring, but we still operate in a free market system, so to speak, but what measures other than monitoring will you be taking?
As I said earlier, they will be supervision by the Ministry of Finance and the National Business Bureau. I made an announcement several weeks ago about the establishment of the Business Bureau. And they're at the moment in the business of setting standards and developing relationship between business and customers. And we're going to be looking at such things as acts or laws which may look at competition between providers and make sure that the customers are getting value for money.
Good afternoon, Beverly Lewis from ZBVI. Just a follow-up to that question that Gordon asked, in terms of, because you realize it's something that would need to be policed. So is the Ministry of Finance or the Small Business Bureau, they're going to have officers going out to check on these businesses to see that they're falling in line with what is expected to be done?
Yes, they will.
In relation to Gun Creek, is any consideration being given in terms of having facilities there for seaplane service?
Thank you. There is at present a facility for a seaplane service. And if you recall, we established that service several years ago when the service to the main airstrip on Virgin Gorda was being threatened with closure. And that was established, but it's not being used at present. It continues to be there, it's functional, and once the port is made a port of entry, then there'll be immigration and customs officer there which can service the seaplane service. There, I know that during the past several years, 2 years or so, there have been at least 3 companies that I know of who have applied for, to make that run available to them. But I would be actually looking at those proposals and, of course, ready to receive any new proposals that may come. But the important thing is, apart from the seaplane service, the port of entry will be able to facilitate the many people, the many visitors who use Conf Creek up there. It's a place where many of the mega yachts and the larger sailing yachts go, because it's perhaps the most beautiful part of the Virgin Islands, they tell me.
That's a follow-up to the initiatives that are announced. You mentioned that Mr. Wade Smith you'd ask that his leave be deferred. Just want to know whether you were aware that he was supposed to take leave or was going on leave. And why wasn't this handled a little bit better, rather than sending him a letter and now bringing him back? Are you pleased with the way the situation was handled?
The situation was being handled, but it was preempted by information being given out, leaked out. And so this preempted the process which was being instituted informing myself and the officer.
So you were unaware?
Up until that point, yes.
Can you say why was he asked to proceed on the leave, even though he just returned from vacation a month ago?
There's a policy which has been put in place from 2010 where officers are required to use their leave, because it's been seen that many officers just accumulate too many days of leave, and this becomes a burden to government and to departments when they do take the leave. And so the initiative which was introduced was that they would take all the leave within a certain time, I think 2013. And I have seen, actually, since we came to office, that several departments have been understaffed at various times because of this process.
But given the challenges that the Customs Department has been facing these past few months, do you think this was the right thing to do at this point in time?
Well, the Customs Department is well staffed, and Mr. Smith has done a good job in training all the people in his department. He was on leave, for example, last year in December, November, and the department functioned. And as a matter of fact, when he was on leave, I did not know he was going to leave then either, because things like leave are not necessarily referred to the minister. These are normal things that happen, managed by the Permanent Secretary, by the Human Resource Department, by the Deputy Governor.
Walter Barrett, JTV. Regarding the extension on the days to Anegada, is the same ferry service that does the 3-day run presently going to be the one for the extension, or is another ferry service going to be brought on stream as well?
I am not sure at this moment which ferry service will be operating the additional 3 days. It is unlikely to be the present one.
Davin Jackson, Zero News. Would you mind elaborating on why it would not be the current provider?
It's simple. The current provider has a contract for a given time, and opportunities can be given and should be given to other providers.
Just to follow up to what Mr. Jackson has asked, what would be the cost of the contract if when you enter into the contract with the provider?
I'm afraid I do not have the figure at the moment, but certainly when we go into that contract, we probably most likely be inviting services to apply, and based on their proposals, we'll determine the price. Okay, I want to thank you very much for your attendance and look forward to seeing you again in the next maybe 4 weeks.